Okay, so it's November 25th. It's getting kind of cool. We are in the South. Yes, I know, not in the deep South, but still in the South or the Mid-South area here in Northeast Arkansas. And we get into the question, is it time to winterize your bike? Well, that's a good question. And to what extent do you winterize your bike? Is it necessary to go to? Now, if I lived in Minnesota or basically north of St. Louis, then I would be considering, more substantial winterization to your motorcycle. But what do you really need to do? And you really have to ask yourself, what is your winter situation like? I understand there are some people in America that are not going to be able to ride their motorcycles much after today, if they can even still ride today. I did ride today. Went out just here around town. It was kind of off and on, cloudy, drizzle a little bit, sunshine a little bit. So yeah, I did go out and go for a ride a little bit. I have a 24 Heritage that I rode around a little bit around town. I also have a 17 Road King, which I keep on a battery tender because I don't ride it as much as I do the Heritage. And a battery tender is a very important thing if you're not riding your bike regularly, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But here in the South, we in most of the southern states, and I don't know if it's the same outside of our area, but we have access to different fuels. It's not really different fuels, it's just some that other people don't have as much access to. But when we don't necessarily winterize the way that people do in the more northern states. We don't have the winters that they do. Yes, we do have snow. We have some drastic snow. We've had up to 14 inches of snow in a night. I know you are laughing because that's not very much snow, people in the northern areas. But we have more of a problem here in the Mid-South area. We have more of a problem with ice storms than we do with snow. It doesn't get as cold for long periods of time. We don't have the snow buildup that other people do. What we do have is rain between 29 and 31 degrees, 33 degrees, that builds up on trees and power lines and roads and everything. It causes major destruction and damage, causes sheds to fall in, causes limbs to break down, high lines to break down, coats of roads with ice. We just have generalized ice storms, which is pretty rough. But they don't stay on for a long time. If we're 2 to 3 weeks without a ride, that really is a significant time for us. So as far as winterizing, most of us in our area, and I called all the guys that I ride with, I got a hold of everyone and asked them, what are you doing to winterize your bike? Are you going to winterize your bike? Because technically, usually I don't. I run ethanol-free gas. We have access quite regularly here for ethanol-free, 91 octane, sometimes 93 octane ethanol-free. There are some places that have regular, 87 ethanol-free. It's harder to find. Usually it'll be in the premium. We'll have ethanol-free premium, which is what we like to run in our motorcycles. And because ethanol-free doesn't break down so fast as your motorcycle sits. If you work a regular Monday through Friday job and only ride on the weekends, that's pretty good. If you're like some of the rest of us, as we get older, we don't work as much, and you have a few days, it's good. We don't have to put any stabilizers such as the Lucas Oil products or the Stabil or Heat or STP products. All these other products they make to stabilize fuel, alcohol products that pull moisture together. The ethanol in the fuel will do that. And if you leave it, there are some studies that show that putting fuel stabilizers in your engine will collect all the impurities as it sits over the winter, and they will drift to the bottom of the tank. And then when you start your motorcycle in the spring, then you will have all that in your fuel system right away. Some people go by that, some people don't. Some shops highly recommend fuel treatments. Some say to stay away from it. It's all in what your personal experiences have been. And over the last 10 years that I have been actually into road bikes, 50 years of riding, it's only been about the last 12 years that I've been really into riding motorcycles on the highway more distance. regularly. It's not uncommon for us to do a 500-mile ride as a Saturday, leave the house, get back home that afternoon, and cover 500 miles. So that's been more in the last 10 years, 10 to 12 years that I've done that. But no, we don't typically use fuel treatments in our motorcycles. And because you may have, as I said, you may have 2 or 3 weeks of colder weather, and then you may have a day of 70, 80 degrees. It's not uncommon for us to have 75 degrees on Christmas Day. Next year, it may be 10 degrees on Christmas Day. A terrible snowstorm on New Year's, or it could be 75, 80 degrees, and we can go for a motorcycle ride on New Year's Day. It's not that uncommon. Here it is, November 25th, Thanksgiving's in a couple of days, and I've been out riding today. So it doesn't stay cold long time. So winterizing is not such a major thing here. Most of us will put the bike under cover on a porch, in a shed, in a barn, in a shop, somewhere like that. Or if you don't have an inside, like right now, mine are sitting under a covered porch. And a lot of people will put a draped cover over them like that. And that does okay. Most of us, like I said, we fill up with clean fuel, ethanol-free fuel, and we put a battery tender on it. You may be 2 or 3 weeks in the cold weather that you don't start it, and I don't recommend starting it to let it run. I've talked to lots of mechanics and done lots of research on it. Starting a motorcycle without getting it up to operating temperature for a long enough period, as you start and it warms up, the moisture that's in the air will build up inside the engine, and then that moisture will be there. If you shut it off, then you have that moisture on the sidewalls, on the inside of your engine, whether it be on the inside of the cylinders or in the crankcase. You have that moisture in your engine, and that's not a good thing. So if you're going to start your motorcycle in the winter, start it to ride it. Don't start it to idle for a few minutes and shut it off. It needs to run long enough for that moisture that builds up in the engine to evaporate off. And so that's, it's really not recommended in all the research that I have found. You may find something different. And if you do find something different, please leave something in the comments to tell me, and we'll discuss it. But what we normally do here is a good clean fuel, a battery tender, and put it under cover of some time. Well, like I said, in the shed, in the barn, in a shop, under a carport, maybe with a cover over it. Something to protect it from the elements, something to protect, keep the battery from dying on you. And that's what we do here in the South. It's not like we're going to have 3 feet of snow. It's not like we're going to be not riding all winter. We'll have days come along that we can ride in the middle of the winter. And that's just one thing about being in the South. But we don't get to ride snowmobiles, and we don't go snow skiing, and there's things that are a disadvantage to living in the South, but are still advantages. So, winterizing is not so much a big deal for us. I would like to know if somebody has a comment, someone would make a comment. Tell us how it is where you live, where you're from. But, leave a comment. We'd be happy to hear from you. One of the guys I ride with parks his motorcycle in the garage. He covers it. He, like I said, clean fuel, battery tender, put a cover over it, give it its passy, give it its blanket, put it to bed. That's, pretty simple way to do it. But he works, he has a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday. But we ride together on weekends. It's good. Everything's good. One of the gentlemen that I ride with parks his in the house. He doesn't have a shed or a barn or a covered porch. He brings his fat boy in the house, in the living room, and parks it. And that's okay. He has access to do that. The way my house is made, neither of the doors can I get a motorcycle through the front door. That's because of the angles of the porch and all that. Or I would do that too. That's a great idea. You don't have to winterize it at all that way. That used to be quite popular. It's kind of fallen out of favor in the last several years. But yeah, we we're to the point here, or we're at the situation, or we have the situation where we don't have to do so much winterizing. And I know it's a big thing right now. A lot of people have videos out right now, what you do to winterize, recommend different recommendations, putting different fuel treatments in it. I watched one of a lady who lives in Canada, and she was putting she was using a fuel treatment, filling up the motorcycles, running them for a little bit, and then parking them, putting battery tenders on all of hers. I do that. I don't do the fuel treatment, but I do ethanol-free gasoline, a battery tender, and keep them out of the elements. That's what I do, and it works. But historically, when I was doing sedation for medical procedures, working 7 to 3 at a hospital, 7 a.m., 3 p.m., when I got up in the morning, I would check my phone. What's the weather going to be at 3 p.m. that day when I get off work? If it was going to be 50 degrees or higher at 3 p.m., I rode to work. That may be at 40 degrees riding to work, maybe at 30 degrees. The coldest day I believe that I rode to work was 28 degrees going into work in scrubs and, of course, full leathers. And but I talked to a friend of mine that one time he rode his bike all winter because his wife had hit a deer with her car. It was in the shop. She was driving his truck. So he was riding his motorcycle to work. And the coldest day he rode in was 18 degrees. Yeah, that's pretty cold. But he did it, and he didn't have that far to ride. So he rode his motorcycle to work at 18 degrees. He did that whole winter while his wife's car was in the shop. We don't have to park our bikes for the winter. It's not a necessity here. We get by with it. It works well. And we usually don't have trouble in the spring. By riding regularly along the line through the winter, we don't have trouble with sediment in the tank, sediment in the fuel system. If you have a carbureted bike, you need to, clean out the float bowl. And that's another thing. If you do have a carbureted bike, if your engine is older, has a carburetor on it, shut the gas off, let the fuel run out, and you'll have, you won't have that accumulation in the float bowl in your carburetor. A lot of people recommend, if you have a carbureted bike, drain the fuel tank, and then you won't have all that sediment in it. It's, it's what you have experienced. Everybody is different. The people that ride motorcycles are as different as the motorcycles that they ride. As I said earlier, we ride with anybody. We don't exclude anyone. I have a nephew that rides a Can-Am Spyder. I have a cousin that rides a Honda, a 1100 Rebel manual shift. And it's a great bike. Yes, several of us ride American motorcycles. One of the gentlemen in our group rides an Indian. Several of us ride Harley Davidsons, but we're not exclusive. We ride with a couple of guys, father and son, that one has a Yamaha, one has a Kawasaki. It doesn't matter. Like I've said before, if it has 2 wheels and rolls down the road, we're good with it. Let's go. But yeah, give me your thoughts on winterization, because I would like to know what people in different parts of the country are doing. I think it'd be a great way just to connect and network with other motorcyclists and see what we're actually doing. So if you have any different ideas, different opinions, go ahead and hit a comment, send me some information, where you're at, what you do in your area. And if you like the video, the content, please hit the like on it, and subscribe if you like it. We're going to be making more content, and eventually we'll actually have ride videos, but it's just in the last few days been so wet that most of us can't get out. So, but we'll send me some information. Tell me what you do in your part of the country, and we'll keep in touch, and we'll follow this up in the spring to see how everybody's different techniques work out. So once again, I'm Dave, and for Dave and the guys, have a good evening.